Rise Career Exploration is financially supported by listeners like you. Every dollar helps towards future podcast episodes. Click on the link in the show notes or visit us at risecareer.org today. Thank you for your support. Enjoy the show. And remember, together we rise.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, welcome everyone. I'm your host, Corey Alexander, licensed school counselor, author, and entrepreneur. And this is Rise Career Exploration, the podcast, where we interview guests on their professional journeys. Choosing a career can be one of the most difficult decisions of your life. Join me as we interview guests on their professional journeys. You'll find that the twists and turns of career struggles aren't unique to you, and that the path to your dream profession isn't always a straight line. Whether you are a student who wants to learn what it takes to be in a specific career, or just want to hear some great career advice, this podcast is for you. What's up, y'all? This is season 3, but almost it doesn't matter because I'm not going to do seasons anymore. I'm just going to do these recordings and interviews as I get the opportunity to meet new professionals based on their schedule and availability. I'm just going to go with it. So I'm not going to really label it as a season. I'm just going to do episode after episode, try to tap into dynamic professions that maybe many of our viewers and listeners aren't thinking about. Give them something to think about, something to explore, something to research, something to consider. So that's it. So today, on this beautiful Friday in New Jersey, I'm going to interview Mr. Randal McCoy, school counselor for over 20 years. He got his degree from Albany State and his master's from the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, in school counseling. He's been a school counselor for over 20 years, over 2 decades. So he has a plethora of experience, knowledge. He's willing to share with our viewers, listeners, podcasters. And I'm excited. I'm waiting for him to come on. This is going to be great. I guess, all y'all should know I'm already a school counselor, but what's the point of interviewing myself, right? So I found a gentleman, and I specifically looked for a male because there's not a lot of males in the profession. So I'm excited. I'm waiting for him to come on. This is going to be great. I have some questions from students in Paterson, New Jersey, junior high school. And I'm going to share that. Here he is.
Mr. Jones.
Welcome to the Rise Career Exploration, the podcast, good brother.
Welcome to me. Thank you for having me on. This is exciting.
Yeah, I just did an intro, blew you up, over 2 decades in counseling. Went to Albany State, got your master's from University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. We ready to go. If you're ready, I'm ready.
Let's go.
All right. Thanks for taking the time.
Oh, no, it's my pleasure.
So these first set of questions are from a school in Paterson, New Jersey, a middle school. And I reached out to them. I made a connection with one of the teachers. And this first question is from Samira. Her question is, what is the saddest story that happened to one of your students?
Oh, I think about it like it was yesterday, but it was many, many years ago in a middle school that I was counseling. I had a student who was got along great with everyone. Students look up to him, and he just had a rough time. He had both parents had passed away like weeks within each other. First the mom, then the dad, and then to see him I have to see him off to protective Children Protective Services. And so I had to hand him over to them. And so that was really sad.
Yeah. Sorry to hear about that. Yeah.
It was many years ago. He's easily in his 30s, if not mid to late 30s now, but he was 15 years old back then.
Wow. This next question is from Yoselin. Has anyone told you that they wanted to end their life, and what did you do?
I've had students who had suicidal thoughts, but they didn't have a concrete plan. So you, in that situation, you call the parent. You strongly suggest them having therapy and seeking professional health in the mental health realm. And I did have students who have said it to other counselors, and by the time they transferred to my school, they had already had therapy set up. But the incident of them expressing suicidal thoughts happened with another counselor.
Gotcha.
So I just had to keep in touch with the student and monitor the student.
Gotcha.
Be available.
Yep. This next question is from Demi Ellis. What does a typical day in the life of a high school counselor look like?
It depends on the month, as you well know. It depends on the month. So if we're talking about September, then you're looking at schedule changes. You're looking at students transferring in, so you have to build their schedule and review their past grades and have individual sessions with them. Setting up a school tour so they're comfortable with getting around the building. That's the bulk of the September. You have, of course, testing, setting up, preparing for testing, going through the week of testing, and then the following week of makeup testing. But if you had to pick out one day, it's in the springtime, a day would be you're meeting with some students to set the schedule for the following year. And then you're sort of putting out fires here and there. Some students have bad days. Teachers may have an issue with the student that may need to be addressed either with the student teacher counselor session or including the parent.
Yeah, thank you. I wonder if a lot of people interested in the profession realize we serve the teachers as well. Like, teachers come to us, they have problems with students, and sometimes we have to have a meeting with all three of us. I think generally the public thinks we just serve students only. That is true.
And unfortunately, some parents think we just serve them. And so that comes, sometimes you have to disagree with the teacher in the student's behalf. You have to disagree with the student often. And you disagree with parents at times. Because, we are the masters of the realm in school, and the parents are the masters of the home, and we have to work together in order to produce a successful citizen out into the real world. So I can't tell a parent when they're to set a bedtime for their kids, and likewise parents can't demand that their children not follow school rules.
True.
Yeah.
This question is from Athena. Where do you keep the personal files for your students, or the things that they tell you?
Well, I don't keep the real personal conversations down in detail. I just give it an overall notation, like in Genesis. And sometimes I uncheck all the parties that are able to see it, and only counselors and counseling directors are able to see it. Sometimes I may have little notes and we have it in their file, but the real personal stuff, I don't write that down. I just, maybe it's just an overview and I can rekindle that conversation.
Got you. This is from Jalen. What influenced you to be a school counselor?
Oh, good question. When I was a junior in college, I had a dream of being a teacher, and I was a sociology major, so I wasn't changing my major. So in New York City allowed you to be a substitute, with college credits and college degree. And after subbing for a while, the principal just said, just come in, someone's bound to be out. And so I was an elementary school substitute teacher who became a teacher, fourth grade teacher. And I was still interviewing different jobs, different people who had different jobs in the school building. And I sort of settled in on school counselor or school psychologist.
Wow.
And so that's what I applied to. I applied to different programs and settled in on school counseling, because school psychology, as we know, they test the students and then they analyze the test. And so I was prepared for both roles, but I felt that counseling had the best of both worlds as far as being in the classroom, as well as talking to the students individual and in small groups. And so I like that path.
Yeah. So,
and to be honest, and another little thing is, subconsciously, my mother was a counselor.
Oh, wow.
So even though I never went to her job, because she worked for Sparford Juvenile Detention Center, so she was a counselor for kids that were too old to be trialed as an adult.
Oh, wow.
They committed heinous crimes and murders and what have you, and she was a supervisor of counselors in that detention center. But of course, you have to have. I never witnessed her counseling any of the students, but it's just funny how subconsciously you follow what your parents do.
Yeah. But thank God I ain't follow what my parents did. But that's another conversation. So I want to thank the students of Middle School 2 in Paterson, New Jersey, under the direction of their teacher, Alexander Hansen. So these begin the set of my questions. So I know you shared you started substitute teaching, but what were your plans like before substitute teaching? Were you always planning to go into education one way or another?
No, I think it really started after sophomore year of college. I didn't have an idea of what I really wanted to do after college. And so I took those 2 years before settling in on a major. And once I settled on the major, I wasn't going to change it again and stay in school longer. So good thing New York City had a program where you could work as a teacher with the promise of you going back to get your master's within 5 years.
Oh, wow.
And so at the time, that was I just didn't go back for teaching and went back for school counseling.
Yeah.
So I had a dream. I was in front of students, and, I learned a lot in college, what wasn't taught in elementary school, as far as African-American history and what have you. And I got into teaching because I never had a Black teacher until I was a sophomore in college.
Wow.
So I never had someone that looked like me in front of the classroom. Now there were Black teachers in my schools. I just didn't have the luck of being scheduled for their class.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I did an interview with a teacher a while back, and the statistics on having a teacher of color for a student of color early on is a huge advantage if they're able to have one, to keep them encouraged, to keep them motivated, and to build some type of bond where they see themselves in the teacher. And the numbers are staggering on if they get the benefit of having a teacher of color. So it's interesting you should mention that.
Yeah, it's very important. Very important to see yourself in that position.
Yeah.
And I've heard of, teachers, not just of color, just pulling you to a side and help encouraging you. Maybe you're slipping in your studies, and the teacher's trying to encourage you. And it means a little something special when that teacher looks like you.
Yeah.
And shares experiences.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, I worked in 2 districts in New Jersey, and the student population was phenomenal as far as mix. The kids got along great. It was so impressive, but it seemed like it wasn't an objective of the Board of Education to hire a faculty to mimic the student body, which I thought made amazing sense to go out your way to do. But that's neither here nor there. I don't know, that's it is what it is, but I thought they had some real opportunities to do that because the student population was so diverse and they got along so well. It would have been nice to mimic that in the faculty.
Yeah, it's always a plus to have diversity across the board.
Yeah. So in going into school counseling, has it been what you expected?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I think when you're coming out of school, when you're fresh out of, and it goes across any realm of the workforce, you are idealistic. You have these ideals and what this particular job is about, and very rarely do you think, okay, what is it going to look like 10 years down the line? And so coming out of school, you're thinking of, saving the world and having and being the greatest therapist in the school that you could possibly be. But in reality, it's a little bit more paperwork than you had imagined. And the further up you go, the more paperwork there is. And so, I felt like the elementary school, you do a lot of counseling. In middle school, there's a little bit more reasoning and you could do a lot of cognitive stuff in the counseling realm. And high school, you do less of it. I guess you have the college application process and what have you. It's just a different responsibility.
Yeah. When I first went into record business, I worked at a company, and from the outside looking in, I thought it was going to be all exciting, partying, this, that, and the other. And there was so much paperwork and invoices and paying bills and just documentation that I was really surprised. So I definitely see what you're saying. So you shared what was most disappointing, but what was most rewarding?
About, I want to say 5 or 6 years ago, I bumped into a former student. They were working in the airport, and they were they help you, get a taxi. You get on the taxi lines, and they're making sure everybody's in line and where you're going. And we got it. I got a taxi. She was ushering people to taxis, and she turned around, Mr. McCoy, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And her coworker was a bike right where, standing next to her. And she gave me the greatest compliment. She said, you helped me stop smoking. Because she was a smoker even in high school and immediately after high school. And I told her the story of, my mom and how she passed away, and smoking and cancer, blah, blah, blah. And, that was it really touched me that she actually went and she listened, and so it makes me think, man, what you say is very important. It may seem light to you, may seem like an everyday comment, but some student might take it to heart, and you just never know. And it's always rewarding to hear those type of stories of students, praising you and thanking you for helping them.
Yeah.
And you didn't realize you helped them so much.
Yeah, you were just doing your job. Yeah, but you're doing your job, you care, so it works out. Yeah. In general, education is kind of like a delayed success. You have to wait years to see if the student took your advice, how they're doing later. So it is delayed gratification in education most
Absolutely.
Of the time. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So 75% of school counselors are women. Me and you are exceptions to this in this small 25%. Why do you think that is? And could the industry benefit from pursuing more male school counselors?
I don't know. I think it's the reflection of education in general, not just with school counselors. Mm-hmm. I think that's just teachers far outnumber counselors. It's just how it is mathematically. So with any school build, like we have a building of, I don't know how many teachers, but there's a lot. There's over 800 students, 900 students, and 4 counselors. So, and dozens of teachers, dozens upon dozens. And so I think it's more glaring because we're, smaller numbers. Mm. The percentages look. I wonder what is it for teachers? Mm. If it's similar, I have to look that up.
Yeah, it's safe to say if I was a better man, it would be similar.
Yeah. Maybe teaching is 35%. Maybe. Yeah. And it's just a reflection of, in education in general.
Yeah. I'm going to look that up and put that in the show notes. Yeah. I always felt like we could stand more males in the building because of the fatherlessness that our country, battles. I think it would be wise for administrators to pursue more male positive role models to be in the building, besides, the normal coaches and security guards and things of that nature, just because it's just a lack of positive role models that these kids have with their amount of fatherlessness. But, that's just a sidebar.
Yeah, that it's true. It's you're speaking the truth.
Yeah. So in your opinion, what makes a good school counselor? What would aspiring school counselors need to keep in mind as a trait that they should refine as they join the profession?
The basis of what we do, as far as holding counseling sessions, your relationship with the student. Having a good relationship with the students is the foundation of all educators. Excuse me. So I think that's the number one trait, because students, they sense what you're about, and pretty quickly, whether you're a classroom teacher, security guard, or any facet, and especially in counseling, they sense who you are. If you're just, to them, you're just a number, or you're just trying to get through the day, you're just trying to do your job, and they sense if you care. Mm. I just had a conversation with someone the other day about seeing kids outside of school, wherever they're into, the activities, the sports they play, and the next day, if you see someone playing a game, establish a rapport with that student. Yeah, I saw you yesterday on the field. That was a great play, and blah, blah, blah. And so when they see that you're invested in their endeavors, it's just a strong relationship building tool.
Yeah. I think you touched on this, but what skills do you think are most needed for elementary and then middle and then high school? Like if you had to pick, like, so in high school, you said focus on relationship as much as you can share that you're concerned about their lives overall is good. So in high school, it's relationship. But in middle school, what would you say? In elementary, what would you say? Or would it all be the same?
Well, as far as counseling and group counseling, I always thought in elementary, you focus on the behaviors of the behaviors of the children, because they're not as cognitive, and that's the difference between the middle school. You sort of get the best of both worlds. You have some kids that are more mature than some high schoolers, and you have the kids who are immature, like some elementary schoolers. So the middle school is you get you get a little bit of everything. And I think that's the stark difference as far as skill and how you approach your job as a counselor and how you speak to a counselee determined, is based on their age and how, and how you can counsel them. So it's like a lot of behavioral modifications in elementary school. You get a little bit more cognitive stuff in the middle school, and then high school is, you're talking to, a teenager to young adult.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So more reasoning.
Yeah. So it used to be mandatory that you had to be a teacher before you were a school counselor. And thankfully for me, that changed because I wasn't a teacher when I got in the profession. Now, do you think school counselors should have to be teachers first, or you okay with the change?
Well, I'm okay with the change because if you go the other way, I would have never met you, and you wouldn't have been a counselor, right? True. Right, and I can speak firsthand that you changed lives,
thank you.
Students in a positive way. So, I don't think it should be mandatory. It's nice to have because when you can, and when you have situations with teachers having issues in the classroom, you can relate to both sides. So like I can see the frustration in the teacher because I've been there before, and you can also be a more effective mediator in that situation. So I think it's important to have it, but it shouldn't be mandatory because there are so many other areas in school counseling that you can be strong at.
And you make a great point because I started off as a substitute teacher, and I was in the class managing behavior because obviously a strong substitute teacher manages more than anything because kids get excited when there's a substitute teacher. They want to go wild. So being able to manage young people as a sub got me in the building and kept me in the building. And then I was a teacher's aide, and I would stay with some students that needed special services. And so being in a class was key. If you could get in a class some type of way, either starting off as a substitute teacher or aide, but some way being in class, because I think what you said is really important and understated. Being able to see from the lens of the teacher is really important because you don't want to just be one-sided, not knowing what the teacher's going through, because you're there to serve and to make a winning culture, a win-win situation in every chance that you get. It's not win-lose in those situations. So it definitely benefited me being in a class, being able to see from a teacher, knowing that maybe they need to be stronger in classroom management skills, and it's not always the student, because the student is going to do what you let them get away with, which is people in general. So yeah, it did help me.
You just said it.
Yeah.
You just said it better. You just summed up my education experience better than I did. So that's exactly what happened to me. I came in as a sub. They saw I can control classrooms. What hurt me was I didn't have the curriculum background, the lesson planning background, and I struggled with that when I had to do it. But I was strong at classroom management, and the principal saw that I can manage some of the toughest classes in the building. And that's why he said, just come every day, whether teacher's out. He said, just come every day. And if no one's out, I'll sit you in the back of the classroom and have you observe one of the master teachers in the room, in the building. So good.
Yeah, that's good.
Kudos to Dr. Roach, the principal that first was responsible for my education experience.
Yeah. Shout out, Dr. Roach. How many students are in your caseload?
I have a little over 220.
What is the ideal amount of students that should be in your caseload, and why?
I think whatever the national average is, I think 250 is a decent number. Not that I would want to increase my load. I think I'm a little on the low side, but 200 to 250 is reasonable. Obviously, ideally, you would like it much lower because you could be more effective. The more attention students get, the better the educational environment. The more crowded it gets, the harder it is to service all students. So, if your number's 100, if your number's 50, then you're doing fantastic.
Yeah. I'm gonna look it up. I think it was really high in the 300s, but I'm gonna put it in the show notes. I'm gonna check it out again and see what it is currently and put it in the show notes. What software, if any, has been most helpful to you managing your caseload?
Well, none other than the Genesis. Genesis website is where students, where all the grades are kept, where teachers input grades. Attendance is kept through there, transcripts, schedules, using Genesis from the basis of when could I meet with the student. I can compile lists of students, of commonalities, by grade. It's endless. I don't think it would be very difficult for me to do my job without it. It makes it a whole lot more efficient.
Yeah. What is the most important thing you wish you knew when you first started being a counselor?
That's a very good question. The most important thing that I wish I knew when I started, it's more like a skill that I wish I had, to be more consistent with meeting with students and not rushing just to make a quota. Like you gotta get all these schedules done. But I needed to speak to that one student a little longer.
That's good.
So if it's one thing, managing those sessions better when I first started.
That's good. Someone's going to benefit from that. That's good. If there was a program you like to implement, what would it be?
It would be more, I would think, bringing more mentoring programs into the schools. and maybe having some kind of connection with an industry so kids can get internship, you know, as they get to be a junior or even a sophomore in high school. I know a lot of colleges have, you know, summer programs for kids and what have it. It would be great to have more internship opportunities for students.
Yeah. When I was in high school in New York, they had that. Like, I would leave school. It was a co-op program. I would leave school and work at a law firm. I mean, granted, it was in the mailroom and I was a messenger, but I was dressed up. I was earning a couple of bucks. I was leaving early. I was seeing what type of environments I was interested in. It was really helpful. Yeah, I think it would serve young people tremendously if they're able to experience something and be like, oh, that's for me or that's not for me. The sooner the better. So that's solid. Yeah. If there was an app you could create to serve your students, what would it do?
This is a product of what's currently going on in my job, and that's scholarships, getting kids to apply to scholarships. The app that I would create would have something to do with, it would be about scholarships. That's what's currently going on, trying to get kids to meet deadlines for scholarships. And so it's a little, I'm a little biased because recency bias, because that's what's going on right now at my school in my job as a counselor. Let's fill out as many scholarships as you possibly can. If we had an app that could, you know, streamline it a little better, that would be great.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Some of our kids are really lazy and writing, though. I mean, they be blowing my mind. Like, you have the opportunity to get this free money, you just won't write.
And
it's scary.
And some of the scholarship committees are just dying for applicants.
What is your advice for students when it comes to picking a profession and college?
Follow your passion. If you've identified what that passion is, you follow it and you try to hone your skills in that category. And so you don't worry about money when you're picking. You're like, oh, this job won't give me the money, what have you. You have to follow your passion, and then the money will come. And I was just telling a student yesterday, like, if you want to be something to do with art, then you go to college and if you like art, you do it on your spare time. It's something you enjoy. You go for it in college. Somewhere along the line, your path, there may be other paths presented to you, but you wouldn't have gotten to that point unless you have made that path an art in the first place. So you always want to don't go by just, oh, my cousin said if I'd be, I should go into actuary science and become a CPA or what have you. And I'm like, well, if you're having a hard time passing math, not that they use heavy math or a person who wants to be an engineer and struggles to pass their science classes or math classes. Like, follow your passion, not what someone else's path is. That doesn't mean it's your path.
Got you. Makes perfect sense. Well, we come to the end, Mr. McCoy, and I thank you for your time and how you blessed our listening audience. But before we go, before I ask you the last question, is there anything you want to share that I missed?
No, I think we hit a lot of great topics today. Let's see. No, we pretty much hit some good topics today. I don't have anything to add.
All right. Thank you. So my last question is this. If you could text your younger self, what would you text and what age would you be when you sent that text to them?
Well, being that we didn't have cell phones and the teenagers, that text would just go into the cloud and never reach us, right? So I if message by pigeon,
Yeah.
or FedEx or what FedEx and UPS is still popping back in those days. So if even message by SOS, I was thinking about this the other day by coincidence. Like, what would I go back in time and change? You sort of, you want to change those really bad incidents in your life. It was one when I was 17, but then and thinking about it further, I wouldn't want to change it because I learned so much about that incident, where like who were really your friends and what have you, that the pain I went through, I mean, it didn't kill me, so I benefited and it made me stronger. So stronger than I was if it hadn't happened. So I think the most basic answer to that question is I would write myself, which stocks to to put my money in so I can be rich by now.
I ain't mad at you, bro. I ain't mad at you. There's a little thing called Microsoft. You might have bought a couple of shares in that.
You think?
Or the fruit company, Apple.
I guess that writing which stocks to support and becoming rich. Or in my high school, I heard of one teacher that was actually going over the stock market and putting you in groups, and I really wanted to do that, but the economics teacher I had didn't do anything even close to that. So maybe if I can go back in time and force my younger self to go to the dean and be like, I want to switch classes because I want to be in that class. I want to learn more about the stock market and what have you.
That's dope. Yeah, that makes sense.
Being more of an entrepreneur, having more of an entrepreneurial spirit at a younger age.
Yeah. All right. That makes sense. Well, Mr. McCoy, thank you. Our listeners, thank you. Thank you for blessing us with your 2 decades plus of experience and wealth of knowledge. And I hope you've been a blessing to our listeners, which I'm sure you were. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It was an honor and a pleasure to be here on the podcast. I appreciate it, sir. Thank you very much.
All right,
man. Be blessed.
All right, be blessed. Thank you. Have a great weekend.
God bless you, brother.
All right, take care.
Take care.
Thank you for spending time with us. Please share, review, and subscribe now. Follow us on social media, where we post new guest alerts and show recaps. All the information will be in the show notes. Thank you, and be blessed.